Well, thought I would come on and do a couple of poems for you this morning. I did a feature presentation of my work, as they say last night, at the Slam Free or Die reading, which happens on Thursday nights at Stark Brewery in Manchester, New Hampshire. Slam Free or Die has long held a strong place in my heart as one of the region's best poetry readings. There's a lot of really good, young, aggressively skilled poets in the room, and it really did feel like a sort of a homecoming. It's been a while since I've done a reading in front of an audience that did not know me at all. And to come back to a familiar place and feel that same old energy was really wonderful again. So I want to thank the folks at Slam Free or Die for being generous with their time and their attention, and that they're just great work. Just great work. I have a bit of a sniffle this morning because of the allergies that are floating around, but I'm going to try to get through this. So I did a set that was a combination of old and new. There was one old timer in the room last night who I felt I needed to sort of provide a couple like treats, but I'm not going to be doing one of those. I'm going to be doing a slightly older poem in a much newer piece for you. So the first piece I'm going to do is a politically oriented piece. I took two poems that had been written at separate times and ended up realizing that they have an awful lot of synergy between them. And the main thing that links them is the Wizard of Oz. So this piece is called Questioning Oz, and it's divided into two parts. Questioning Oz. We focus on the man behind the curtain no matter how often we say we should not pay attention to him. Let's talk instead about the machine he's running when the curtain is pulled back. That's a hell of a piece of technology right there. Smoke and projection. End result, a terrifying head offering favor and demanding sacrifice. And let's talk about that curtain, too. The most important piece of fabric in all of Oz. It looks pretty plain. The same color as almost everything else in that city. Made to be nondescript. To blend in. Can you recall anything about it other than the request to ignore it? Who's the real wizard here? The bumbling man or the head howling imperiously? Or are the people who hung the curtain more powerful than either of them? If you buy the man's story, all of Emerald City knew he was behind it all along. Do you buy the man's story? Did he build or inherit or improve upon the machine? Who's in charge here? And what do you think we should call the machine? Should we call it magic? Or magic with a K? Should we call it green supremacy? And what do we call the curtain? Should we call it greenness? Should we note that it is the color of the default setting? What does it say that the people of Emerald City did not seem sad to see the wizard go, as long as someone, anyone, was left in charge to maintain the status quo? It likely took those three less than a week after Dorothy left to step behind the curtain and fire the machine up again. And this time, no black dog appeared to pull back the veil. The flying monkeys flew in from Oz to suburbia and landed just in time for Sunday dinner. Sat there on the neat margins between the sidewalks and the curbs, crouching on the fresh-cut grass, shitting on the blade-savaged dandelions. Did you know that there's a word for that strip of green in between? It's called the verge. The flying monkeys were on the verge that Sunday. Jackets, hats, attitudes intact, acting exactly as we'd expect. Tails tucked, wings folded, waiting for orders. Down the block from here, someone cracked a screen door and said, "You look hungry. Why don't you come in for a bite?" To the ones perched outside their house. And one by one the monkeys filed inside. The neighborhood was dead quiet. What was going on in there? The monkeys came out hours later dressed in the clothes of the folks who had invited them in, who followed the monkeys naked into the streets, who stood passive as they were taken and lifted and carried higher and higher, seeming to rise almost forever until they vanished. Then some among us rushed to proclaim this, the rapture at last, while others simply laughed and clapped their hands, along with the suddenly welcome flying monkeys and their magical flight plans. And more stripped and flew, stripped and flew. And the monkeys took over their empty homes and their jobs, their routines. They folded up their wings tight under t-shirts and mowed the lawns and even the verges, sat out sunning themselves in their yards and swimsuits, their tails slung lazily to one side of the lounge chair or the other. And that's how it's been for a while now. Now and then a distant scream, now and then decomp on the wind, as if somewhere there's a huge and growing pile of broken bodies in a valley just beyond the verge of sight. Those of us left aren't saying much. There's a lot of monkeys around, and frankly we can't tell the difference anymore. Not sure who's giving the orders about who flies and who gets flown, who rises and who falls. We fret, we fear, we whisper to each other that old line, "These things must be done delicately," even though it's clear that for the monkeys, that's no longer true. No, they most certainly do not. Yeah. A country full of flying monkeys. The second poem that I'm going to do for you is very different. It comes from a set of stuff that I wrote late last year, and a lot of them were inspired by sort of the weird energy at the end of my time with my father. Watching his decline and spending an awful lot of time in a nursing home sparked a lot of stuff. And these poems that I ended up writing during this time period, many of them are very stream of consciousness. But they're not really. They have more craft to them than just a straight first thought, best thought. But somehow there's an energy to them that feels as though that was what was going on. So I'll give you this one, and then we will move on. Once again, my thanks to Slam Free or Die for having me last night, Z and the Bill Jim and all the fun people who hung out there. This is called Nursing Home Dogwalker. I hate bingo. I like cribbage. Random enough talk from an old woman a physical therapist is walking up and down the rehab center's hall. "I like cribbage too," said the therapist. "That's a good game. Maybe we could play sometime," and then it trails off as they get away from me. I pull out my notebook and write it all down. I'm like that. When it comes to people, I'm a metaphysical dog walker. You see me talking, hear something coming out of my mouth, sounds like something I made up or felt or chose. But truth be told, and this one's true, I promise I don't have many original thoughts. No one does, really, but at least I admit it. Everything I say has a leash on it, and secretly I know I borrowed it from someone as if they knew they wanted me to take it out for a stroll or would have been glad to know I'd thought enough of their utterances to let them loose on the larger world. Dignified them with craft. Doing all this hard work of listening and then trotting out the words of others like eager puppies, as if this work I'd been made to do paid me instead of others. as if I just like words as much as the rest of the world likes dogs, and walking them is its own goal. Meanwhile, the bingo game's getting underway in the common room. The patients are being wheeled in with their markers and oxygen and cards. B14, G5. Nothing here needs me, and neither does my father. Resting in his room down the hall, away from the yapping and the physical therapy that he no longer needs. Neither does my mother in her room across the way, disdaining all the socializing, impatiently insisting that she could go home tomorrow if we would let her. That dog won't hunt, as the old-timers say. It's not something worth discussing, and I've got other dogs I can't wait to walk, if only to get me out of here. That was written, I'd say, about a month and a half before my father passed. Yeah. Anyway, I will be now going to post this to YouTube. I think it's not going to be an exclusive to Patreon today. I think I'm going to put it out in public for people to see. There you go. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Good luck. Be well. Onward.